Hey folks, Jim Jacobus. Welcome to this week's Take 5. As always, and don't hope you get tired of this because I want you to hear this message over and over again. One, you can do this like it's never been done before. I believe that about you. Back of my business card says inside every human being, a champion heart beats. Two, got to be willing to do the work. This week we're going to take a look at the very first step in living life large, being the best of the best, by looking inside and see if we're actually worthy of being the best of the best. Welcome back to this week's Take 5. As we start looking at the 5 key elements to living life large, passion, commitment, vision, keep learning, take total responsibility, before we do, I think it's important to decide whether or not we feel like we're worthy of being the best of the best. I always tell people in our audiences that I believe everybody's extraordinary to the point that I see us all being multi-millionaires. I always ask them, raise their hand if they're multi-millionaire, and typically very few people raise their hand. Some of them already have the concept in mind that they're infinitely worthy, but very few people do. And I'll tell them the same as I'll tell you today. I believe I can illustrate we're all multi-millionaires if you'll follow along, all right? By a show of hands, how many of you allow me to cut off one of your fingers or one of your toes for, say, $50,000? Now, I know some of you weirdos out there raising your hands right now, and every now and then somebody in the audience raises their hand, and I'm always glad to know where the whacked out people are, or perhaps who's having a really bad year. But I will tell you this, I always wished I had an axe in my bag with $50,000 and some gauze so I could test the theory whether somebody would really be willing to give them up. I asked that an audience not too long ago that question, and the guy down front raised his hand and he goes, "No way, never again." And I remember laughing and the whole audience laughed. I talked to that gentleman after the program and he showed me on his left hand he was missing 2 fingers. He'd lost them in Vietnam. And he said, "Jim, you don't have enough money to buy those back." And I think the reality is if any of us had ever lost a digit or something like that, we'd feel the same way he did. Well, we have 20 of those at $50,000 a piece. That's $1 million. How many be willing to give up one of your hands or perhaps one of your feet for, say, $1 million? Right? For those weirdos out there, that's a group plan, right? But no, none of us would be willing to do that. We have 4 of those. That's $4 million worth of resources. How many would be willing to give up, say, an arm or a leg for $5 million? Times 4 is $20 million. How many give up your ability to see, your ability to hear, perhaps your ability to speak for $10 million? Times 3 is $30 million. How many would give up a child that's not a teenager, all right? I ask that question all the time. People raise their hand. I've got a 24-year-old, right? If you thought about it, I understand the thinking process there. But in reality, how many give up a child for, say, $100 million? All right? How many give up a spouse for $5? All right, now people always raise their hand to that, and I can't help but laugh because, one, it is funny, but two, it's going to cost a whole lot more than $5, trust me, right? Well, look at all those resources we have, millions of dollars of resources at birth, not counting education, not counting the experience, and not counting the opportunity to be in the work that you're doing there as a salesperson, sales manager, or even as a mom or a dad or whatever. All those great opportunities with millions of dollars worth of resources. And I believe our Creator gave us those resources expecting we do something above average with it. And so we have to look at ourselves as being worthy and able and capable of doing those kinds of things that are the best of the best. And so this week, again, the message is we've got to see ourselves as being capable. All right? You can do this like it's never been done before. That's really kind of the background information for all that, and the fact that I've seen people through the years overcome amazing obstacles to be successful what they do. So again, this message this week was that you're a multi-millionaire and that we have some resources we ought to use at a level that would create something extraordinary in life, a legacy we could look back on. So here's your challenge for this week. I want you to look around yourself this week and see all the things that you have as resources. I want you to list 10 resources you have that will allow you to become successful in this thing we call sales and sales management or at life in general. My name is Jim Jacobus. I'll see you on next week's Take 5.